Good morning, everybody, and you're all very welcome to Mobile Heights TOPPENMORGON on IoT Security with speakers from our members RISE, Truesec, Seavus, TekPartner, and Malmö University. This is our first webinar ever, and it's being filmed live from Studio Meeting Point in Malmö. And we are really happy to see that so many of you are here with us today. We actually had more than 150 people registering for this event. And I know that there is a great mix of people in the audience. We both have people from bigger companies like Sony, Ericsson, and Volvo, people from smaller companies like Brainlit, LifeFinder, and Veab. We have people from the 3 universities, Lund, Malmö, Kristianstad, and also people from the public sector, both City of Lund and City of Helsingborg. My name is Molly Lofquist, and I'm the head of communications at Mobile Heights. And with me here at studio in Malmö, I have our CEO, Ola Svedin, and my newest colleague, Amelie Hallin. I also know that we have the full team of Mobile Heights following us online. We have Johan Lindén, who you will see on stage later on. We have Jonas Jönsson, Malin Larsson, and Alma Sandberg. Some practicalities. Emergency exits are in front of you, over the wings. Oh, no, right, you're sitting at home, are you? And some of you are sitting in the office. Well, suppose you just have to look over your left shoulder and your right shoulder to make sure you have any kind of door or window. Right. Jokes aside, this event will be filmed live and the films will be available afterwards online. Now let's have a quick look at the agenda. We will start with a quick update from our CEO, Ola Svedin, and then move quickly over to our keynote speaker, Shahid Raza from RISE, who will tell us about the ongoing and future national and international cybersecurity initiatives. Johan Lindén, my colleague from Mobile Heights, will give a brief presentation of the very exciting project, IoT Security in Public Spaces. And at 10:45, you will have a short break, so then you can jump away and have some coffee. But please make sure to be back at 10:50, where we will have the panel presentation and discussion with Truesec, Seavus, TekPartner, Malmö University, and RISE. And we will end at 12. And with that, I would like to introduce to you our CEO of Mobile Heights, Mr. Ola Svedin.
Thank you, Molly. So, good morning, everyone. I wanted to just share with you today a little bit of what is going on at Mobile Heights. We can take next slide, please. So, Mobile Heights, we are growing as a community. I usually refer to us as a big family, and usually at these seminars I see a lot of you physically here. I understand now we are in different times, but we should have at least 100 people watching this right now. So I take comfort in that you're out there, and I try to reach through the camera to all of you. We are growing. We have grown as a team 60% since last year. And why are we growing as a team? It's because we want to serve you as members in a better way. We are growing our project portfolio. We have 40% more projects this year than last year. And last but not least, we are adding cluster members. So we can take next slide. We are now 120 members. This is a new benchmark for us, and we're really happy to see adding members in a swift with a swift frequency right now. We welcome today Hedge, Nifty Tech, Veab, Bintel, Backtick Technologies, Spectrum, Reshaped, and Debricked. All very exciting companies that will contribute a lot to the Mobile Heights community. For the subject today, I'm really excited to hear what our great speakers will teach us about IoT security, and what the panelists will teach us about how we go from here. So, with that, a great seminar, Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ola.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. Right. So with that, we are starting this webinar, and I would like to introduce to you our moderator of today, the one and only Anders Miller from Altitude Meetings.
Thank you, Molly. And hi and welcome to you all. And as you know, IoT offers amazing possibilities for our businesses, for our societies, and for our lives. But IoT also raises questions about security that we know that many of you guys out there struggle with. And today we hope that we will straighten a few things out for you. And we'll start by taking a broader look at some national and international initiatives that's going on. And here, to help us guide us through this very important subject, we have Shahid Raza, the Director of Cybersecurity at RISE, and also Assistant Professor at Uppsala University. Welcome to you, Shahid.
Thank you. Thank you, Anders. I share my slides. I guess you see my slides?
Yes.
Perfect. So I would like to thank Mobile Heights for inviting me for this seminar. It looks, it has a very good agenda, very good speakers. I'm really looking forward to this. Yes, my name is Shahid, and I'm privileged to lead the cybersecurity group or unit at RISE, Research Institutes of Sweden, and I'm also an associate professor in Uppsala University. So a few words about RISE. RISE is the largest research institute owned by, fully owned by Swedish state. Today we are 2,800 employees, divided into different divisions, groups, and departments. We are also either partner or own 60% of Swedish test and demonstration facilities, and we are present across Sweden. In fact, we are in 53 locations in Sweden. The cybersecurity group at RISE is the largest group who works on research in cybersecurity in Sweden. We have a great mix of deep scientists, people with PhD degrees, practical people with ethical background, ethical hacking background, PhD students, researchers, and so on. RISE is also the only research and technology partner of EXO, which is a European Cybersecurity Organization. People who come from 3GPP, they know it's a public-private partnership of cybersecurity in Europe. So from Sweden, it's RISE, Ericsson, and Vinnova are the only three members. And RISE is also leading something called Swedish National Cybersecurity Research and Innovation Node. I will come back to this, and we have recently established a cyber range. So this seminar is primarily about IoT security. So I will say a few words about IoT security before I dig deeper into some national and international initiatives. So if I look at our work at RISE today on IoT, on security, cybersecurity, we divide our areas into more applied areas. So we are a European leader on IoT security. It would not be wrong to say that we have the best portfolio on IoT security in Europe when it comes to standardizations, participation in projects, number of people, and so on. But we also work on cloud security, software security, 5G security, automotive security, and recently we have started working on security for AI with adversarial AI and topics like that. So each little box that you see here is in fact a multi-million project, and unfortunately I don't have time to dig deeper into each project and discuss it in detail. But just as an example, the very first project, for example, the secure care here, it's with City of Solna, where we work on how can we bring secure IoT into elderly care at homes and so on. in addition to these collaborative projects, in all these projects, we work with industry, public sector, European players, and so on. There are 4 initiatives that are that have very high reach within Europe and in Sweden, and I'll dig a bit deeper into a few of them. So Concordia is one such huge initiative in Europe, and HibNet is a network working on hybrid threats. And then I dig into the Swedish National Node and RISE Cyber Range. So if I look at the work at RISE on cybersecurity, we do strategic research funded by SSF, VR, and organizations like that. We work a lot on applied research. Also, part of our research is funded directly by industry. In this case, it's Ericsson, it's Saab, it's Volvo. They are funding our research, and we are leading the IoT security standardization work in IETF together with Ericsson. So as this seminar is primarily about IoT security, I will just highlight one work. So this is one little box in these many boxes you have seen, where we are working on bringing the public key infrastructure to IoT. So whenever any one of you, when you open HTTPS, there is a protocol or set of protocols running behind, and those are based on what we call public key infrastructures. Public key infrastructure is a state-of-the-art cybersecurity on the internet today. And our goal is to bring that into IoT, Internet of Things. So there are many design goals, and people who understand public infrastructure, they know it very well that it's a heavyweight solution. And we have been working on this for 5 years now to bring it down to very constrained IoT devices. So in fact, it's hard today. Cybersecurity in IoT is hard, not because there are no protocols or solutions, but rather these solutions depend too much on human involvement. For example, usernames, passwords, and so on. And think of it, last time, when did you change your, let's say, a router password for your home router? I guess I didn't change it for a year, and I guess the same for you. So the goal here is actually to bring something called zero-touch security for IoT. So when you get an IoT device, you turn it on, it provisions itself, it gets the identities it needs, and it starts communicating without requiring modification or knowledge on the end user side. And we have been working on this for a while now, and one such protocol, which we call CoAP EST, is an RFC. It's a new standard, IETF standard. So it's not just in academics or in papers yet, but we being RISE and in my group, we go all the way to standardization, and this is a perfect example of that. So where can we use it? For example, if you look at the industrial environment, we have, let's say, when you manufacture an IoT device, you put a birth identity, and then when you plug this or put this device into an operational environment, the device automatically gets something called operative identity or certificate, and then it uses that identity to perform secure communication. And there are corresponding protocols to revoke such identities, renew them, and so on. So there are so some steps are performed at the manufacturing or industry side, the others are on the user side. So there is no user involvement when you get a device into your premises. Whereas on the industrial side, you have some, of course, you put your security in the device. People who come from telecom background, they understand eSIM with pre-installed certificate and so on. This is similar to that, but it's an IETF standard today. So we are in the RFC queue, so it will get a number anytime. And this is this specific protocol. We are still working on it, actually more applying it to specific use cases. We have 2 very important projects, Secredas and Secure Care, where we bring this technology into automotive, fully autonomous vehicles, and also, as I mentioned before, into healthcare, where we are working with City of Solna on elderly care homes in Skoga, Solna, where we bring this technology. And we are also now actually bringing this technology or combining it with the newly standardized application layer security protocols that we will hear later today. So with this quick overview of IoT security, I will jump into some initiatives. Because of time constraints, I cannot dig more deeper into other initiatives we have in IoT security, but some of the cybersecurity initiatives we have in Sweden and EU. So some of you, or many of you, might know that EU is planning to develop something called European Cybersecurity Competence Network. This is extremely important and very important to know as well, because in future, the cybersecurity programs, especially the funding programs, will be triggered through this European Center for Cybersecurity. So how should such a center look like? EU has funded 4 projects to develop a pilot version of the center. So Concordia, Cybersec for Europe, ECHO, and Sparta are these projects where RISE participates in Concordia, which is the largest setup with 54 partners, 27 industry, 27 other organizations, running for 4 years, 19 countries and involved. EU has put 16 million, and then national states and industry put additional 7 million euros in this project. RISE is in the management board of Concordia and a partner, so very central place in Concordia. And we are building this European Center for Cybersecurity. And also on the national level, an initiative has started, funded by Vinnova and run by RISE, together with about 20 core players. And the goal was actually that Sweden, when we put ourselves in the global landscape on cybersecurity, we are not the best in cybersecurity. We are best in many other things. For example, innovation, digitalization, Sweden is quite high. So if you look at this, we are getting quite ready for digitalization in the society and so on. But at the same time, when you look at cybersecurity, the pace is not the same. So there is a big gap here. You can see with a blue line. So one of the main or ultimate goals is actually to reduce this gap. So if a country is, let's say, number 50 in digitalization, number 50 in cybersecurity, it's not that dangerous situation. But if we are really high on connectivity, innovation, digitalization, and then not that good in cybersecurity, it's a bit scary situation. So one of the goals here is actually to bring Sweden into top players, and also to create an environment of trust rather than an environment of fear for Swedish industry or other players to grow in Sweden. So this is a very important aspect. So there are a number of goals. I unfortunately not have time to dig deeper into individuals. So much more details we will put, and we had plans to have a public launch for this on 19th of March, but because of Corona crisis, we couldn't do it. But we will announce a new date, hopefully soon, when things will calm down and when we can gather somewhere and start this initiative. But of course, when it comes to work, we have already started this work. There's a website that you can visit for further details. But as I said, really the goal is to bring together industry, academia, public sector, and then identify, prioritize, and initiate activities to create a favorable research environment and innovation environment in Sweden. So, we will come back. I will come back to this during maybe panel discussion and so on if you have specific questions on this. But for now, I'll move forward. So the last thing in my talk today is what we call the cyber range, or RISE cyber range. So with Sweden, prior to this, was lacking a test and demo facility where Swedish industry from different parts can come and experiment, their solutions, a facility that help people, train on advanced cybersecurity, and so on. Such kind of infrastructure was really missing. So we initiated something called RISE Cyber Range, or Cyber Range. So those who don't know, a cyber range, similar to a shooting range, in a shooting range, you have real soldiers, you have real weapons, you have real field, but in fact, it's not a real war. Similarly, in a cyberspace, when you have real offense and defense tools and you experiment them in a realistic network setup, we call it a cyber environment or cyber range. So we have identified different goals with our cyber range. The very first and obvious is actually training, education, and exercises for more or less every industry who goes digital in Sweden. So one way when you train people is actually to train on PowerPoints and so on. The other way is that you create a network structure or infrastructure that is very close to what they will experience in their actual environment. So it's cyber range actually gives us a facility to create this very realistic virtualized setup. It's not simulated, it's virtualized. So actual software that will run in the real machine will be running in this virtual environment as well. So that's one goal. So we create a realistic virtual network and train people on this. The second is what we call digital replicas. So if you're involved in if you're a big industry or you are involved in the critical sector operations, assume you have a water system, Stockholm water system, for example. So the cyber range has possibility to create the copy of the actual system, and then you can check the resilience of that system. So it's really hard to actually go and attack these real systems to check how good they are, because they should be up and running 24/7. Another goal with this is actually really to offer it to Swedish industry for pre-release and of course post-release testing of their cybersecurity services and products. As you have seen before, RISE is the great big research group, and we have a number of people working on different topics. So this is a great research facility as well for us and for our partners and others who want to use it. And last but not least, it's also important that RISE is also a certification body in Sweden. So the Svensk Provning is part of RISE, and we already do safety and security certification in Sweden. And with this new European Cybersecurity Act, some of you might know, you can get a cybersecurity certificate from a company in Europe that's valid in entire EU. And that's a big game-changing initiative. So RISE being a certification body and cyber range, combining together, we could be a cybersecurity certification for product and services in the context of EU Cybersecurity Act as well. With this, I end my presentation, and usually I and some other players from Sweden also write this: the cyber from Sweden don't have back doors. It's very important in the cyberspace. Thank you very much, Anders.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very interesting. And we have time for a couple of questions here. And if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will find a section called Q&A. So here in the Q&A section, you can write your questions to Shahid, and I will bring it up to him. So please go ahead while we talk and write questions in the Q&A section. Okay, thank you. In the meantime, what does it mean that we are at number 32 when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I think I should say this. I mean, by saying number 32, this does not mean that the Swedish cybersecurity landscape is, worst in or bad in many things. One of the main problems is actually we are very segregated in Sweden when it comes to cybersecurity landscape. And this Cybersecurity Research and Innovation Node that is initiated by Vinnova and RISE, that's actually really a step towards this, bringing together cybersecurity initiatives in Sweden. For example, there was a recent event organized by NATO where Sweden was number 3, but that's a one team that did, participate and came out with a very good flying colors. But when you look at the overall landscape, with how industry performs and how, what kind of programs we offer in our universities and so on, as a comprehensive look, then we are not that good,
What kind of segments are we? What kind of other countries do we find around number 32?
Oh, I don't recall the full ranking by heart, but I think this presentation will be available, and there's a link to the ranking where we get. But I think the countries who are around us, Lithuania, for example, and Denmark, and they are better than us.
Yeah.
On this, I must say here that number 32 really doesn't mean that we are bad in everything. But maybe we are really good in individual aspects, but in reality, it's not that good.
No, let's see. We got a question from the audience here.
Yeah.
And it's Michael asking, which real-life projects have been already tried in the RISE cyber range, and what was the typical finding of such a trial?
Okay, it's a very, very good question, but I should have said this, that the RISE cyber range is not up and running today. So we have a physical setup in Kista ready, but because of Corona crisis, the launch event were planned for April, and now it's moved to later May. So we don't have any project tested yet, because this arena will be open for industry later May, hopefully. But if Corona crisis is still there, we want to have a very good launch event out of this, because it's a big initiative. We don't have anything like this in Sweden. It's a very large physical facility, which not only has a cyber range, but a big penetration testing, forensic facility, and so on as well. So
yeah. What's your guess that people in general will find when they pass it, when you make your tests in the future? Do you have an idea of what people generally will find out and learn?
So, we have different kind of programs or software, cyber range platforms. So one generic stuff is for IT operators. Each and every IT operator in Swedish industry will be trained on what they usually see in their IT environment. That's one aspect. But then we dig much deeper into SOC operators.
Yeah. And shortly, a lot of people nowadays are asking about the safety of this kind of platforms that we are using now for broadcasting and live streaming. What's your view on those platforms and the development now? We're going online using, as we are doing now, Zoom and other services. What should you have in mind when you use those platforms?
Yeah, this is a very good question. We have recently done a study for SLL, Stockholm Läns Landsting, on the use of net doctors. When you talk to an online doctor, and we have identified that some of them are really good when it comes to security and privacy practices, but others are not that good. So yes, there is a gap between the use of online platforms. Let's say when we go for Zoom that we are using today, I guess it's in news nowadays. So you have read that they had end-to-end encryption before as a claim that they removed because they were storing videos in the backend. But this is not that sensitive. But of course, depends where you use it. But when it comes to highly regulated areas like healthcare, things are not even promising there. So yes, there is a serious.
There's a lot of things to take in mind. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this, and we'll get back to you later during the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it's okay, perfectly okay to applaud at home or wherever you're sitting. So now let's move on, and our next guest is Johan Lindén, the Senior Project Manager at Mobile Heights. And Johan is going to tell us about the final outcome of a highly interesting project. And this is about a new and secure IoT protocol, which has been tested in a real environment. Welcome, Johan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Let's share my screen. Just a second. Have you wondered how many IoT devices there's out in the city? For example, we have Mårtenstorget in Lund. We have some Bluetooth mesh network that is placed in cabinets. The power cabinets, you can see they on the picture on top left corner. Those you can find everywhere in the city and use is perfect setup for a mesh network. The network infrastructure is from Smart Public Spaces. It's a project headed by Lund, Future by Lund. And we are just today using, until this project at least, using standard IoT security setup. But today I will talk about the new IoT standard, OSCORE, that I mentioned before. This is the new standard to place inside and test inside this Bluetooth mesh network. The project is funded by Vinnova. The idea of this project was born in discussion with uBlocks and RISE. And since I know that Sensitive also was interested in security setup with the sensor platform, and also already inside the Smart Public Spaces program, they were a natural partner as well. When we had the discussion, we saw the threat with more and more IoT devices that are connected to the critical infrastructure, make the vulnerable for being hacked. Each system like Bluetooth has their own security setup, like other similar communication protocols. But when you put them in line, the different systems together, then you see vulnerable. Let me explain how it works. You have the sensor data to the left, and you have the application to the right. And you would like to have the data flowing through different kind of communication systems. This is how it looked like in Smart Public Spaces. You have the data from this sensor going down to the gateway to the NB-IoT. In the gateway, you unpack the data to fit to the protocol for NB-IoT. The IGU platform at Sensitive will receive the data, unpack the data, and later it will pack again and feed it to the application. As you can see, I removed the unpack data here in the picture. And what you can see that we have now an end-to-end encryption system. This is what we call and use in the project is the new OSCORE. Let me explain the challenges we have seen in the project. When we started, RISE was still in the standard discussions. The standard was not completed. The idea was quite bold to fit in the crypto into the small IoT devices with very limited performance. In the discussion, first meeting, we actually didn't know if it was possible at all to do it. But we have the results today that we could do it. Besides, the time budget was relatively small compared to the risks and the complexity of the technology. RISE brought the research part into the project, and we have U-blocks and sensitive brought the research to the real case in smart public spaces infrastructure. The system is both for sensors and actors. This was a bit tricky in the project to actually make it working together at the same time, but we managed that as well. I would like to say that the success of the project was that we're working with an iterative process. We have a lab test set up. We placed it into a real environment, and then we tested back to lab again, added new functions or adjusting some of the results from the test back again to the live environment. I would like to say it's not fully true. The team is important too. A dedicated team with very high competence is as well a big success factor. I would like to introduce you or present some of the project members of the project. I will do it through a video. This video was actually finished yesterday afternoon. So this is really world premiere of this video. So please enjoy.
We started off this project, one of our product managers, Stefan Bergen, he initiated this project along with other project members trying to create end-to-end security from a sensor to the cloud.
End-to-end security is about sending sensor data from a sensor like this or an actuator all the way to the cloud and making sure that the data is secure all the way.
The weak spot and the challenge is to collect the data from the sensors in a secure way. And all the sensors being very constrained, when they're constrained, their security is, well, typically very low.
We didn't know if it was possible to end-to-end secure mesh data. Mesh is so constrained, Bluetooth mesh. So it was extremely difficult to know from the beginning if it is possible to perform end-to-end security.
We are more and more connected, and that also means that, of course, critical infrastructures will be connected. And an effect of this is that we will be more efficient, but of course, the society will also be more vulnerable.
You must remember that these devices are part of a critical infrastructure in society, and as such, it is really, really bad if they get hacked.
We have been working at RISE with IoT security for many years now, and now we are in a phase that we must push it out into a broader ecosystem and make it used.
OSCOR came in as really a strong encryption layer that we can use. We can put it inside these traditional protocols, the IoT protocols, really beef up security, increase it a lot. I think signing off from the project has been a big boost for the whole team. I think everybody involved is very impressed with what we've done. Because all the companies that brought in different experiences and different knowledge. And when you bring that to the table in a project like this, it's very, very powerful.
We saw the strength of being part of the Mobile Heights networks. So there we can find the partner that was needed for this Renova project. So we have RISE that have done the specification for the technology. We have Sensitive that are doing the backend system and the cloud server. And we have U-blocks that is doing these type of sensors as well as the gateways and And then finally, we have Mobile Heights that were project leading the project. I am extremely happy about how this project turned out. Like at the end of the day, we managed to prove that it is possible and it is a reality already in the city of Lund, and we want to make that happen in all the products in all the cities all around the world.
This is achievable, this level of security. We managed.
Thank you so much, Johan. And a big applause for Johan. From you all. And while you who are watching could write your questions to Johan in the Q&A section, I want to start with asking you, Johan, how can a company that is watching this now get a hold of the product or play a part in the development?
Actually, I would like to say that it's best to contact the company themselves, and you can contact Thomas Karnehult from RISE. You can contact Stefan Berggren from uBlocks, and as well you can contact Peter Borman from Sensitive. Of course, it's okay to contact me as well. I mean, I can guide you and give some introduction to the project.
See, questions coming in here now. How should a data filter work so that it meets today's laws? And second, can be reconfigured if laws are changed?
I'm not extremely technical into the project, because that is something that has been done by the companies and RISE. But filter, we don't filter today in this system. It's a protocol. OSCore is a protocol.
Another question from the same person is, how should a data distributor work so that it sorts or distributes data in the right place? Let's say internal data for all, or public data.
Yeah, this is how actually this is a question for Sensitive. It's actually a EU platform that it doesn't matter if it's crypted or not crypted. It's how you put access to the right data. This is the core of the Sensitive platform, EU. I think that's something that we can have more discussion afterwards.
Yeah, and here's another technical question for you.
Control it with rights.
Great, thank you. It's another technical question for you. You said it was E2E encrypted, but you also mentioned that the data is decrypted and re-encrypted on the way, which means it's not E2E. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, oh, sorry, I try to be as clear as possible, but when it's encrypted and decrypted, it's the old way that we used in the Smart Public Spaces project. When we have the end-to-end, is the new, when we're using OSCore into the Smart Public Spaces. So it's the old one and the new one. I would like to try to show you that the big benefit with adding the OSCore.
And from your point of view, what do you need to push this project further?
I mean, it's about to start using it, spread the knowledge. And when you start using it, this OSCore, and combine it with new standards is coming up as well. So it's about using it and contact the companies, persons that know how it works. So please contact the companies, start using from the start.
And you heard in the previous presentation that we are at number 32 when it comes to cyber security. Are we too naive when it comes to cyber and IoT security?
What I would like to say is that we need to secure more IoT devices right now. I mean, we need to start right now. This is quite, I don't want to frighten you all, but this is a sensitive system that you open up to. So you need lots.
Are we lucky that we haven't seen an kind of an explosion of real incidents?
I mean, it's the IoT devices, starting it out in the market, there's proof of concept projects everywhere, in every city, for example. Those proof of concepts, that's not that very many sensors out there yet. But when go from lab to reality and you scale it, then there will be a huge amount of sensors that will be open for the critical infrastructure.
Thank you so much, Johan. And for all of you guys out there, it's time to stretch your legs, grab a cup of coffee, and we will have a 5-minute break. See you all back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you grabbed your coffee and are sitting comfortable. So now we're going to meet a couple of Mobile Heights members, and we're going to have a panel discussion soon, but first they will get a chance to introduce themselves. And as you see on this picture, we have 4 companies, 3 companies, 1 institution and 1 university with us today, ready to tell you more about what they can do within the field of IoT and cybersecurity. And our first guest is here in person. Welcome, Stefan Hagman from Truesec.
Thank you very much. So hi, everyone. My name is Stefan Hagman. You see my presentation here? Or,
it's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up. I'm representing Truesec. We are a company that is all about cybersecurity. We have 120 security experts located here in Malmö on Södertull. And we have offices in Stockholm, Karlskrona, and in the US. So, yeah, we try to divide our work into like 4 boxes. What we do, secure development, there we help organizations with doing secure development, helping them out with attackers' mindset, helping them think security when developing systems and components. We also do in-house development for other organizations. We are developing one part of that is really important for Swedish digital infrastructure, but we're also developing a whistleblowing services for a company called WhistleBee. So things that needs really, really hard and good security. On the consulting part, we are doing quite a lot. We do a lot of penetration tests, everything from hardware to networks to backend web, everything, and trying to break down the systems for companies asking for it. We do a lot of security reviews, for example, code reviews and architectural reviews, helping companies that are in the development phase getting secure. We are acting as a security advisor for different organizations and companies, giving them our knowledge in the best way when things have gone wrong or when they're trying to create something new. We do red teams, which is our what we call Hollywood hacking, where we go bananas and trying to hack a company with all our good wills, with social engineering, with all the different tricks that we have in our minds, and also infrastructure. So we're building secure infrastructure and also education, which is a really important part for us, which is in our heart, that we would like to learn what we know about security. So we're keeping courses on universities and having guest lectures and so on. Then we have the incident response box, which is where we help organizations that have been hacked with the cumbersome way back to getting back in business, like ransomware or other things. only last year, I think we had like 8 big incidents helping companies getting back on track, which is a really cumbersome way. And then we have our Security Operations Center, where we have managed 24/7 detection and response on security. When things happening in companies' networks. When it comes to what we do in IoT security on Truesec is that, we do a lot of penetration tests and security reviews. We did 25 assignments during the last year on different live and pre-live systems. And what you can see here is that we find, we categorize and we see the weaknesses in 5 different areas. It's hardware that has one kind of problems. We have cloud, we have backend, we have firmware, and we have the systems where when you put things into a new system or the target system, you can see that things go wrong. And we can see that, every system has good and bad parts, but we haven't seen any yet that is good on all the parts, which is, we're trying to help out there. With the security reviews that we see looking into code mostly, and also architecture, putting and start thinking about the attacker's mindset, doing threat modeling in order to start think like a hacker, in order to raise the level of the knowledge on the team and on the system. So I think to keep my time, I'll end here. And if you have any questions, please come back to me and I'll try to answer them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And nice meeting you in person. You're the first person in a couple of weeks I've actually met. So thank you for that opportunity. Our next guest is live from Skopje in Macedonia. Welcome, Ivana Petrovska, Cybersecurity Coordinator at Seavus.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Okay, so today I will just shortly present the services that my company offers. I work for Seavus. My current job position is Cybersecurity Coordinator. Part of the services that we offer are related to, since we are a very big company, but part of the services that we offer are related to cybersecurity. And the main 2 branches of the services we offer are security assessment as a service and security compliance as a service. The security assessment as a service is something that is more related to the penetration and technical approach to delivering security. So delivering penetration tests, in-depth security assessment, vulnerability scans, remediation and hardening, and of course, threat and risk assessment. The security compliance as a service is something that is more related to the security standardization, offering security consultancy services such as information security officer, data protection officer as a service, staff awareness trainings, organization and delivery, of course, business continuity management implementation, and of course, internal audit in several of the security standards that are best on the market and most well known. We have also additional, let's say, packages of cybersecurity services that we offer, something that is called Security Improvement Program. As I have mentioned, we have the different approaches for the penetration tests, which are external, internal, network, web, cloud-based, specifically in more depth for devices on more low levels. And of course, the black box, white box, and gray box approach. From the compliance management, as I have already mentioned, we are offering security services related to implementation of the best well-known standards that are there. So something like ISO 27001, PCI DSS, and the notorious GDPR regulation. and the threat management, which is mainly related to developing, testing, and implementation of incident response plans and procedures, identification of potential vulnerabilities or security threats, as well as we perform root cause analysis and business impact assessments. How do we do it? So we do it with a team that has expertise from various fields related to different industries, such as banking and finance sector, telco, embedded development, public sector. We also have deep understanding in the cybersecurity threats and risks. And of course, we offer a different range of cybersecurity service portfolio. As on the, can be seen on the slide, we also have best in the field certifications for our team members. Of course, we will deliver, we'll give you a full team of cybersecurity engineers and professionals that will be coordinated by a technical lead and service delivery manager, which will follow up on the entire project. Why Seavus? Well, we are a software development company, and we have more than 1,000 employees with different divisions covering development in different areas, also managed services, infrastructure services, as well as cybersecurity. We have diverse knowledge and expertise, and we have offices in different countries throughout Europe and North America, which can keep us close to your location where you need your services delivered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivana. Thank you. And from Skopje, we are going to Denmark, where we find our next guest, Soren Velkoski, VP Global Business Relations at TekPartner. Welcome, Soren.
Thank you, Anas. Very nice to be here, although it's remote. Hopefully, it's going to go very good. Just to put in perspective, I will say a few things about myself. I'm working in field of electronic product development for almost 25 years. Otherwise, my expertise is within the field of how to combine business development, product development, and also how to have the view of basically commercial and R&D perspective. I'll try to share my screen now. Right, few facts about TekPartner. It's founded 2009, 60 plus full-time and contract employees. We have Odense and Herlev R&D department, and also we have international sales office near Copenhagen and newly opened in Amsterdam. It's basically what we're offering is end-to-end one-stop product development services, and we try to have a holistic approach to product development. So what we could do is helping our customer to compete globally on quality, price, and time to market. We have, let's say, customers from every sphere of and every markets, from very small R&D, for very small startup companies to very big enterprise companies. And usually, what we are trying to do is to provide them with custom-made teams of international experts in every different domains that one could imagine. These companies, basically, we always try to give them the competitive advantage with our R&D services. We have a term that we have coined. It's let's say like a hotel's boutique outsourcing. In regards of domain and technology expertise that we cover, as you could see, it's quite wide. That's why I'm saying that it's end-to-end what we want to offer to a customer, a holistic approach. And of course, we in this present times where there's so much different technologies, we cannot do it ourselves. But we have many, or not many, but we have 7, 8 strategic partners with whom we are forming a coalition, great coalition, how to help the customer. Everyone excelling in their domain and technology expertise. We cover industrial design and mechanic design. We cover hardware development, which is our bread and butter. Then we help logistic, prototyping, production. We go to simulation, modeling, quality improvement, and of course the custom software development is the bigger part of it, and it's spanning from portal solution through our partners, mobile apps, embedded RTOS, and embedded Linux. And now, because almost everyone is in this forum is toward the software angle of IoT security, and being that our bread and butter is hardware, I will try to just put the perspective from the hardware point of view, and then it's always this question: software-based, hardware-based security. In short, software-based security is relatively inexpensive, and it has an ability to be updated, to upgrade security, and so forth. And it's great. I don't have any ideas to undermine it. But however, it's very important that one needs to have in mind where the equipment is based, whether it's exposed and physically accessible for the bad guys. And then on the other hand, we have hardware-based security. Of course, it's more expensive or relative expensive, but then again, it could be deployed in any application environment. And it's very good, especially if there is a possibility that the bad guys are accessing to the equipment physically, or they could tamper it. And of course, this could be done with special integrated circuits, or it could be a processor, which have built-in crypto algorithms and so forth. And also it has some of the devices are also protecting the integrity of the box itself. So that would be ultra short on my side. Thank you, Anas.
Thank you so much, Soran. And now we're back in Malmö, because not far from where we are sitting here is Barto Vogel, Senior Lecturer at Computer Science at Malmö University, and also researcher at Internet of Things and People. Welcome, Barto.
Thank you very much, Anders. I will share my screen. All right. Why not start from the technology evolution? When the World Wide Web was first introduced to us in CERN by Tim Berners-Lee, even though the WWW was rejected. So back then, we had only the read nature regarding web technologies. And then fast forward, we evolved to Web 2.0, so-called, where we started to have other devices connected into our systems like social media sites, etc., etc. So then we evolved to the situation of having read-write nature of the web. And fast forward, now we are dealing with Web 3.0, so-called, where we are not, we are dealing with, beside the read-write, but also with understanding. So by looking at back, we started from sharing, we went to contributing, and now we are trying to contextualize all these aspects. Throughout all these evolutions, of course, security is part of this and is evolving fastly. And then we have different security versions. And now we are in Security 3.0. And together with these developments, of course, these devices, while providing very much conveniences and efficiencies to our users, opens up new threats when it comes to hackers and data privacy concerns. So basically, we have cyber attacks on IT devices that are lately becoming booming. From industry perspective, there was this firm Checkpoint that recently discovered that there was a huge flow from the Philips Hue smart light bulb that can enable a hacker to break into your Wi-Fi network without figuring out your password. So some of our research that we are doing here, some of the colleagues, they have tried to extend the threat agent methodology with 5 external aspects of agents. So like different actors in the context of smart home with motivations and skill sets. Then they classified the main types of attacks into security and privacy threats. Then every threat agent has the potential to compromise the smart connected home asset in different ways. Also, lately, they have developed a formal model in order to tackle all these challenges. In one of our latest studies, we have interviewed a couple of experts in security area in region Skåne, and we have found that security of IoT is not only anymore a technical issue, but it's becoming people and process issue as well. So security should start with the awareness and the right mindset. This is what we have discovered in one of our latest studies. And then, of course, we have proposed a sort of approach, security thinking, which has more like proactive engagement of this aspects when it comes to security thinking. One of our current efforts that we are dealing is together with a project funded together with the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. We are looking at identifying more, let's say, framework, because drones today are very specific in this dynamic environment. So we are trying to propose a drone-specific security measures as well. And perhaps this is my last slide, and we all think that how do we solve these problems? How do we address these challenges? How can we better contextualize security and privacy into IoT? When often we think, yes, we do it with engineering, which I agree to some extent, but I think just like Kandinsky proposed this wonderful picture, we need to think about a sort of composition when it comes to addressing the security challenges in IoT. And later on, I think we are going to also discuss in more details these kind of challenges in our panel discussion. So this was my last slide.
Thank you very much, Barto. We're all Kandinsky fans here in Malmö, so thank you for that wonderful last slide. And now we're going to dig a bit deeper into this subject with our guests, and you can go to the Q&A section as we go along and write your questions. And remember to write who you want to see answering these questions, so we know who we're going to pose the questions to. But please go along and write questions while we discuss things. And Stefan from Truesec, welcome back.
Thank you.
And you said earlier that something about you have to have a hacker's mindset when you're approaching these things. Could you explain a bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so an hacker's or attacker's mindset is that, as Shahid said before, we are very good on developing things in the happy flow, creating new things, but very seldom you think of as an attacker, where can he or she do his or her attacks? So what vulnerabilities do we have in our system? Start thinking like a hacker, thinking, what should be the interests into finding in my system.
Yeah, and what's the best way to if I want to learn how to think like a hacker, where should I start?
I think starting with something called threat modeling is a good way. You can Google it and you will find a number of hits, different methods, but it's called threat modeling, and it's good for a development organization to start off. Practicing makes perfect. So
that's a good start for you guys out there. Threat modeling, Google it. And could you clarify a bit more, what kind of attacks do we see here when we connect all those new IoT devices onto nets? What do they look like?
Yeah, as Bat mentioned, we have different sophistication levels. We have the happy hacker, we have a sophisticated engineer, and we have the state-sponsored. Yeah, what we see when we do our penetration test is that yeah, we find weaknesses all over actually. So yeah, it could be that you do a side channel attack on the hardware, or you have forgotten or hard-coded your passwords or something like that. So it's a hard one.
Yeah.
But also I thought we should start thinking about, we're talking about the sensors here, but we should also have the systems in where you put the sensor. I mean, it's a really good way in to a network. So I think that part should also be evaluated and discussed in when you put into a sensor into a network. What do we open up?
Yeah.
So you have that perspective as well.
Because when I asked you earlier, what is the most vulnerable place? Where should we start looking? And you, of course, said, well, this is complex.
Yeah.
But if we want to take a holistic view of things, where do we start?
I think it all depends on who you are and where you are in the ecosystem. As a developer of a sensor or a device or a vehicle or whatever, I mean, start thinking about the system. Where do we have our weaknesses? So threat modeling is, I think,
that's the starting point for everything.
Yeah, I would say that it's a very good starting thinking like an actor.
Yeah,
and have that all through the process when designing, but also when sourcing. When you get into if you buy sensors and put it on your net, what do you expose?
Yeah,
because you can see that then the exposure is we are widening that area a lot, and as you can see, I mean, there was a test done some time ago where you put 500 devices on the internet, and during, I think it was 2 hours, it was 500,000 attacks on those 500 honeypots.
And these are things that I guess that the owners don't notice, these attacks.
No, it has been, yeah, we haven't talked so much about it, but I think it's start worth doing.
Yeah, so threat modeling, guys, go check it out after the seminar if you're not already moving with this.
Yeah, and
knowledge.
You get better on it when you practice. So
great. Well, thank you so much. And now let's welcome Ivana from Seavus back again. Hi, Ivana.
Hi. Hi, one more time.
And continue to write your questions in the Q&A field, and we'll bring those up afterwards. So where do you think, from your perspective, where do we stand today when it comes to IoT security?
Well, as the IoT market is evolving rapidly, especially in the last couple of years, also there are changes in the threat landscape that are being developed in parallel with the IoT market. So security risks and vulnerabilities associated with IoT are usually not the first thing that comes into mind when the technology is being developed. Since even the technology itself is still being discovered and improved, and the market, as I said, it's growing exponentially in the last couple of years. So even though the security is not the first thing that comes into mind, again, the research shows that in the last years, even the security thinking and mind is growing in parallel. So in the last couple of years, there were several security issues that became publicly known related to vulnerabilities or threat detected from misuse of IoT devices. There was one case which I think almost everyone knows, where a casino was hacked via an internet-connected thermometer in a lobby aquarium. The internet-connected fish tank was remotely monitored, automatically adjusting the temperature, salinity, and delivering automated feedings. And also there were many other cases where with only a simple vulnerability scan, hundreds of insecure installations were discovered where insecure HTTP protocols were still used. and including default credentials, basic passwords with any complexity. So I think that adoption of security standard for IoT remains a prime concern, because it should be developed and it should be followed. Because as we can see from the cases that I have discussed previously, companies developing IoT are not always focused on security and still show, let's say, some kind of low performance related to security. So in my opinion, stronger influence is needed to motivate the companies to adopt basic IoT security practices in the following years. So some kind of maybe vulnerability disclosure schemes should be visible, accessible, public demonstration of commitment to continually improve security.
Should we have a kind of a mark on things that this is like things we have for environment-friendly products? Should we have security mark standards for IoT products?
In my opinion, since I have been working a lot with, let's say, with security standards and things like that, so I think that the basic is some kind of security standard specifically made for IoT. Since it's a bit different, it's not, as Zoran has mentioned, only software related, so it's more hardware should be considered, devices and security on more low level, and also physical security, of course, related to the devices itself.
Now you do business in a lot of places all over the world at your company. Can you see any difference when it comes to threats, vulnerability, or knowledge when you look over Europe and the States?
It's usually the difference is in the sector where we deliver the, let's say, the security services, meaning that it's different if you're working with banking and finance sector, different vulnerabilities and different threats if you're working in the with telco industry, different, as I have mentioned, let's say, with IoT and more embedded type of technologies. So the difference is more there. Basically, Europe and America, the hackers are the hackers, so they're always going to be there and try to get their end target.
And what do you find the companies that you work with? What's the biggest need?
The biggest need of the companies, well, they're it's actually more related, as I have mentioned, to the compliance part, because once they implement any security standard, for example, let's say the ISO 27001, and if you go through the standard itself, then automatically you will be compliant and you will bring also technical security in every area of the services that you offer and let's say the things you offer to the market. So those are actually the most requests that we're getting lately. And of course, the penetration tests, as other people have mentioned here, red teams, blue teams, where you attack and try to penetrate the network from a standpoint of end user or internal user. Internal threats are also very interesting lately. So those are the things that we most have services and offer services in lately.
Thank you very much, Ivana, and continue to write the questions in the Q&A field, and we'll bring as many as possible up. And now we will go back to Denmark and Soran from TekPartner. Welcome back, Soran.
Hello, Anas, welcome.
So now you heard Ivana's take here on what companies need. Do you want to add something here from your perspective about what companies need?
I would just say that what I agree most, because I'm not coming from a security specialist, of course, I think that I'm well informed. But what I would say is the security threat is always needs to be taken in account before you decide which way to go in the protection. It's same as your alarm at home. I mean, if you are hiding at home metal bars from gold or gold bars, then definitely you go for something which is highly secure. But if you don't have anything special, then you don't bother much. So I fully agree on that one, that it's a trade-off, basically.
Mm. What do you think is the biggest struggle here for the companies watching here? Do you think it's about knowledge, or is it about money? Because security, of course, costs.
Well, it's a very good question. It's combined, I would say. The issue, as I see it, the issue in these modern times where all the paradigms are shifting. I mean, the business model is shifting from product-based to service-based. We have also concept which is product as a service. Even the cars lately, they are sold off as a service. I think that is very, very difficult that the companies, especially the small ones, if we put aside the companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, if we have a small companies, it's almost impossible that they would believe that it's achievable, that you do everything end to end, or what is now the hip word or the key word is full stack development. So collaboration and being together and partnering together with different companies is a must.
Yeah. And on that question, how do you acquire knowledge here? How do you start?
Yeah, from our experience, and personally from my experience, usually if you are a smaller company, you never go and try to hire people all of a sudden, because it's first it's very difficult to attract. Secondly, they are very costly, and thirdly, it's more in a way you are not aware where all this endeavor will go. So you need, I would advise always that you start small with some external, either consultancy or some small project, and then you start building a team internally, and then slowly when you basically acquire a critical mass of the team, then you could of course start working just alone in this part.
So it's important from your view that you get external people in from the start that can acquire knowledge, and then you can build on that knowledge and train your new employees and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the cheapest actually and fastest way to go forward.
Yeah. Very shortly here, what do you think the biggest mistakes are that companies do?
Well, I will return on my previous comment that the biggest mistake is that the company have approached that they should do everything by themselves.
Yeah.
It's like Mitsubishi. They are producing from rocket to airplane, and then they produce also the washing machines. But that's only Mitsubishi. It's one, and that's it. It's not repeatable anymore.
Well, thank you very much, Soran, and continue to write questions in the Q&A field. We'll bring this up just in a moment. And with us again from Malmö, we have Barto Vogel. Welcome back, Barto.
Yeah.
So let's look into the future for a while. And the question is, what happens tomorrow? If these are the challenges, and they are huge, that we are facing today, what happens tomorrow when we start building our smart cities for real?
Well, I think I would like to tease a little bit some minds maybe here. I think standardization is one of the issues, especially in IoT, having in mind that constantly we have standards regarding security and other standards. We have dozens of standards, and all this availability of these standards make us having sometimes none of the standards implemented. And it is very, very confusing to developers, especially I would take here startups, because the mindset in startups is that they want to deliver the product as fast as possible. And they don't think about security. So they react to security retroactively. So what I would suggest is to think more proactively regarding security. Another challenge is that, of course, we know that data itself drives the value of IoT platforms, right? But how do we secure this? So securing the Internet of Things basically represents new challenges in terms of the type, scale, complexity of this technology that are required. And then as an example, is like powering down or interfering, for example, millions of devices through a single IoT vulnerability can result in physical damage and injuries or death. It was interesting. I would like to quote an EU Commissioner for Justice. She said, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, she said that EU's integrity on developing the strongest data protection rules in the world are capable to make exceptions and give flexibility for a crisis such as COVID that we are dealing now. So this is exactly in the context of smart cities to manage crisis, right? Now they are tracking us. They are kind of, it's first time in the whole humankind, I think they are using security and privacy data to understand the crisis. And in future, we might need to see what are the lessons learned from this crisis so that we could use this privacy data and security aspects in future in different scenarios. Today we have COVID, tomorrow we might have some environmental issues.
Mm. Yep. Very interesting take. Very shortly, you told me that you should never over-engineer things. Could you explain that shortly?
Yes, I think I have, that's why I have included the Kandinsky's picture on composition. Sometimes we as engineers, as I mentioned also earlier, we over-engineer things. And this is what we are suggesting here is that maybe we should have the security thinking mindset. And that security mindset can be, for example, expressed in two forms. The first one can refer to the technical measures that IoT practitioners should take when developing an IoT system. And the second one is also a progress towards more secured organizational culture and to ensure that all our employees are kind of training and having an influence and activate their thinking towards information security. Also, what we do here is that we want to strive for an IoT security mechanism that, as I said earlier, expresses in kind of proactive way and during, let's say, requirements, development and implementation. And then we need to have security awareness tactics.
But how do you know when you are over-engineering things? How do you know when you pass that border?
Because we, when it comes to, we know, because we don't test the product, we don't comply that much with security aspects. So it is about compliance as well. And we over-engineer, we spend a lot of time, and then in the end, you see with Philips Hue bulb, it was already hacked.
Yeah,
I think they have over-engineered it. They just kind of forget to implement one security mechanism.
Thank you so much, and stay online. We'll get back to the question. Please keep on writing questions in the Q&A field. And last among our guests here, we have Shahid from RISE. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So we're going towards this future with smart cities, machine learning, and AI. How should we handle data in the future? And what problems here do you see that we will be facing?
Yeah, thank you, Anders. People used to say that data is new oil, which we shouldn't say that because oil went to a negative price today. But you know, I think at the end of the day, data that these IoT devices will generate will be a very important asset for an organization. So if I dig a bit deeper into technology here, so, you know, whenever you generate data, the state of the art or the common way now is you somehow transfer it into some central location. We call it cloud, you know, and then you process data there. So there are two kinds of clouds today. I mean, the private clouds and the public ones. So the private clouds that you own, so it's your perimeter mainly, or you have full control on this. And the other, which is actually 99% that people use, is public clouds. So the biggest problem with the public clouds when it comes to use, to put your sensitive data there, is that there are no cloud providers that are where if you store data there, that the data is not protected from the cloud provider themselves. That's very important. Meaning that if you put something on Amazon, Amazon can see that, you know. And in this world with lots of espionage and everything, it's not that nice world today. People are scared, especially when areas like healthcare and so on, which is very highly regulated, today's cloud are not ready. So there's a lot of research going on in this field, how to make public clouds more private-like. So in cybersecurity, there is something called encrypted query processing on homomorphic encryption and things like that, that say, okay, you can actually store data and process data in a cloud environment in an encrypted way. But that will take a while before we can use it, you know, for more or less any application. So that's a bit futuristic. Let's see. I mean, though we can do some basic operations there. Yeah. The second, which is very interesting field here, is people actually are using what we call enclaves. So they create an environment in a cloud that's only accessible to a specific application. We call them enclaves in cloud environment. There's a lot of work going on as well. But in all these cases, you send your data to cloud or to a third party and you process there. What we have started recently working on, and that's very, very interesting, we have got some very good results, is what we call, you know, performing machine learning at the edge of network or edge intelligence. With the technologies like federated machine learning. And what does that mean? It means that you don't send your sensitive data to a party outside, but you rather share your trained models. And then you get, you know, the trained models from other vendors into your premises as well. So federated learning for IoT security is inherently privacy preserves, meaning that you don't share your data, but there are a number of challenges that how, you know, the security of models and the polluting, poisoning of models and so on. So we are looking at all these aspects. So I think if you are in IoT space, for example, if you have an industrial plant that you're running, edge intelligence is something you should look at. It's a very active research area, and federated machine learning is a topic for cybersecurity and IoT security is a topic that's worth investigating. And of course, if you're interested more in these topics and so on, RISE is working on this. We would be happy to collaborate with you.
Thank you so much. And now it's time for some questions from the Q&A field. And Stefan, you can come up again and join me here because we have a question for you. Are you cooperating? You can take
one more step.
Yeah. Are you cooperating with the Swedish police as well? Investigation or ID theft, stuff like that?
Not so much, not directly on that in that way. But when we have had incidents and so on, we're of course involved.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you help companies with the software development process. What would you say is the area that is most often missed by people?
Yeah, in terms of security, you can say that what is most missed. I think it's pretty much what I said about implementing guards and protection against ill willness, which I would say is the most that is missed. But it differs a lot. Some miss that you have too high privileges that you have implemented in a wrong way, depending on where it should be. So it differs a lot.
It differs a lot. Yeah, thank you. And here's a question to you, Bato. Are there any academic courses available focusing on cybersecurity or perhaps IoT security in particular?
Luckily, we got a project from KKS and we are developing a new master program in IoT, tailored to IoT. And of course, there we are envisioning to have an IoT security course as well. But we currently run an information security course in computer science here, which is more general. But the researchers that are involved in this course, they come from the background of IoT. So you can check up in our website.
Yeah, and courses start in August?
Perhaps I need to check that out.
Yeah, we don't know these days, but online courses will...
Probably. I hope not online, but I hope this situation will resolve. But
yes,
we will start in online or offline. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Thank you very much. Now, Ivana, has a question to you about you're from Macedonia now, which is not an EU country, and you don't have to answer specifically for you and your company, but is this something we should have in mind where the company is based that is handling cybersecurity?
As I have mentioned previously, GDPR, for example, is looking for, is more focused on EU member countries. But we have never had problem with this. Even though we're not an EU country, we offer services all over Europe in EU countries. And usually they don't have problems since we have all regulations that are EU-based implemented in our company. So we work according to EU laws, EU regulations, and best security standards in the field. And of course, additional, let's say, progress in our company, it's that we also have offices throughout EU countries. For example, we have offices in Sweden also, not only in Macedonia. So sometimes we can offer services even from our employees based in Malmö or Stockholm if needed and specifically requested by the customer.
Thank you. Now, here's a question about definition. What makes a product IoT? There are devices with multi-core processors and also small 8-bit microcontrollers. All are considered IoT. What's the defining factor from a security point of view? And it's free for any of you who want to answer this question.
I could answer from hardware perspective. Of course, if you have, every device which is connected on the net and pushes data toward the cloud service is IoT. Now, from perspective how it's implemented, of course, if you have a multi-core gigabit processor, you could actually implement some security or heavy security. If you have 8-bit microcontroller, you have really limited resources to do so, if at all you could do something.
There's another question. It's like this. Any idea how to make a judgment of how much security that is sufficient? How do we know this and when do we know it?
It's a tough question, I think, but and I don't think that we need to answer. We just need to follow some of the rules that we have, and it's hard to really say the security is sufficient. Now we are secured. We are never secured because security is never guaranteed. Even though it is a mandatory characteristic, it is still not guaranteed.
Yeah. And I would say it's pretty much about risk assessment of what you're protecting and your what kind of market position you want to take.
Yeah, and then you have to learn how to make a proper risk assessment.
Yeah.
Another thing, we do a lot of pitches here for companies, for investors, for startups and stuff like that. And I don't think I have ever heard an investor actually asking question about security issues. No. Have you heard this?
No, but it's getting better and better.
Yeah.
We can see a lot of when you do due diligence on companies. That part is more and more frequent. So things are happening.
Yeah. There's a question here from Peter Persson. What is the timeline and scope for Cybersecurity Act in EU? Any specific IoT topics in the Act?
I can touch this a bit. So EU Cybersecurity Act was enforced June last year. So it's a law now. And now we have 2 years time where ENISA is building. So there were two main things in the European Cybersecurity Act. One was that the ENISA received the permanent mandate. So it's an agency now permanently. The second is ENISA was given a mandate to create something called European Cybersecurity Certification Framework and Schemes. And for that, we have around 2 years. Within these 2 years, they have to develop schemes and also the framework. And yeah, so when it comes to IoT security, there is actually, they have recently, a few months ago, organized an event on IoT security certification.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I could ask my friends here to scroll up in the Q&A so I can see the previous answers here, the questions here. And here's a question. Did you consider physical attacks on the devices and how to prevent data spoofing? And I'm not sure who this is aimed at, but anyone could answer physical attacks on devices.
We can do, say from a penetration perspective, when we do penetration tests, we quite often do attacks, physical attacks, which is a good way in. Breaking it, doing measurement, and also often there's a good USB port or something else that is easy to use.
Yeah, and are these things that you talk about here, are these things easy to do? The attacks we are talking about here, are they easy, or are they highly qualified people doing the attacks?
I would say it's a mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have this as a profession, so that's maybe unfair. But we never leave a job without finding anything. So as I said, it's in either you're not perfect on every spot, and we always try to find the weakest link.
If I may add something on it.
Sure, of course.
I would return again that it's very important what is the value one wants to protect, right? So if the value is very low, then of course those are amateur. If the value is very big, those are highly professional guys that you could do whatever you want. You just have 1 or 2 days in front of them. So you need to have the whole organization behind you to just drive the whole process. And on one more answer, or just to comment on the physical protection, I fully agree. If there are some interfaces like USB, like Ethernet, which are physically exposed, one could come and connect and then do the bad things. But there is also data spoofing is possible also on a way that you could go deep down to the PCB level, right? Where you could connect probe directly on the microprocessor legs, and then try to see. There is a standard. I will just very quickly say that there is a standard in the hardware development. That's something that we help for one of our customers, where there is something which is called the emission, the radio emission signature should not change depend of how much data you're processing from outside. So no one can, even from the emission of the signature, could understand that something is changing in the operation inside the box.
Thank you. We have 2 short questions left here. And one, is it better to design security by assumptions on potential threats, or is it better based on certain hacking incidents?
I can touch on this
Yeah.
a bit. So in my opinion, it's never good to wait for hacking incident to happen and then implement security, because in that case, you will lose probably a lot of money, a lot of investment, and you will lose a lot of time, of course, to improve everything that has been hacked and to get back your information or anything that was stolen. So the idea, my idea, and the approach that we think as a company should be used, it's that security should be included by design in the solution, meaning starting from the beginning. In that case, you can work, security people can work together with the people that are more, let's say, focused on developing software or hardware for IoT devices. And in that case, together they can decide what level of security should be implemented. But in my opinion, it's better to start from the beginning by implementing security and not waiting on incident to happen and then trying to improve things.
Thank you. And one last question for all of you. The crisis that we are up in now, the corona crisis, is changing so much in society, and we can't even overlook the changes yet. The area that we are discussing here, IoT security, is this affected by the crisis in some way? Will it affect security issues as well? What do you think?
I would say it highlights a lot.
Yeah.
You can see online meetings, tools that has been up in the media. Working from home, you get exposed through your own home network and so on. So I would say it has highlighted a lot about security, but also about digitalization in general.
Thank you. Any more takes on this from you guys?
Yeah, we agree. We share the view. Yeah, continue, please.
Soran?
Yeah, I will just add on that exactly that all this digitalization basically is just enables the bad guys to have more possibilities where to start popping and try to extract information and value.
So Ivana, Johan, Batu, Soran, Shahid, thank you very much for participating today, and all your contact figures are out there if people want to reach out and talk with you a bit more afterwards. So thank you so much for participating, and thank you, Stefan.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to welcome Ola Svedin back. So, Ola, what's your takeaways from the seminar?
First of all, I'm really impressed by all the knowledge that has been displayed here today by the speakers and the panelists. And I picked up a few things that I thought were quite interesting in this. One thing was, let me check my notes here. Shahid from RISE said something about there is a gap between digitalization and cybersecurity. And I thought that was really, really interesting, that we're seeing this rapid digitalization of society, but we're lagging behind when it comes to cybersecurity. I was comforted to hear that RISE has one of the best IT security project portfolios in Europe, and so that might help things a little bit for us here in Sweden and in Europe. We talked a lot about standards here today, standards coming up, and I think there's a red thread here, because there's one thing to implement, to talk about the standard, and another thing to implement it and see that it really works. And I think the Vinnova project that Johan presented was a really good example of that, where you actually try out the mechanism that you have so to say theoretically thought about. And then jumping a little bit to other comments, I think one very interesting comment from, I think it was Batu who said that IoT security today is less of a technical issue, and nowadays it's more of a process issue, how you implement it, how you handle it, how you handle the devices. I mean, one reflection here is that we carry around really high security devices in our pockets, all of us. They are called SIM cards and credit cards, bank cards. Those are really, really high security IoT devices. But the surrounding system also has to be secure for the whole system security to work. And then one last thing, I think that Zoran and Bato, they both talked about implementing security from the beginning in new products. And in particular, it was mentioned that startups, they are very focused on getting the thing to work, getting it on the market. And that is actually one thing I often put forward when I talk to our startups. Think about security from the beginning, because it's really hard to add it later to the product. You have to have that, keep that in mind when you start development of a new IoT product. So those were a few things that I picked up from this.
Quite a few things, yeah.
Really interesting web of knowledge that we got here today.
Really. So what's the next step forward for you?
Yeah, I think that one thing I would like to mention here is that Europe has a really, really aggressive strategy when it comes to cybersecurity. The EU Commission will put a lot of money into a new framework program called Digital Europe. Once we get the budget in place, we all know that it's an ongoing process. We have to agree between the member countries to put money on R&D in Europe. But Digital Europe in particular will focus on 3 technology areas. And one of those areas is cybersecurity. And to pick up that and to implement that in Sweden and in our part of Sweden, we will actually start a new project this year called Digital Innovation Hub that is aimed at getting the technology for cybersecurity from, the drawing board into real projects, into real products, and implementing cybersecurity, especially for small and medium-sized companies and public administration. That is what that project, Digital Innovation Hubs, is all about. So that will be the next big step for us as an organization to organize this around the Digital Innovation Hub.
And how can we follow this? The companies watching, how can we follow
Yes, and you will find a lot of information on this in our social media channels and on our website going forward. There is already some information on our website about Digital Innovation Hub that you can look into. And for sure, we are only in the starting phase of this, and there will be more to come.
Great. So keep connected and you'll follow these projects. Thank you so much, Ola. And Molly, welcome back.
Yes, Anders.
So what happens next at Mobile Heights?
Well, at Mobile Heights, our next upcoming event is on May 28th, and it's called Skåne Innovations Saving the World. And it will be a live stream film from Bricks in Lund. And it's organized by Ideon Science Park in cooperation with us at Mobile Heights and with Innovation Skåne. And there will be great speakers there telling the story behind their different innovations in Skåne. I know that one of them is Sven Mattisson from Ericsson, who was one of the men behind Bluetooth, and I'm personally very excited to be able to hear that story. So please save the date in your calendars. It's May 28th, and the invitation will be in your inbox soon. And if you want to register already now, because you're so excited about it, you could just go to our website. It's mobileheights.org, and you will find it in our events calendar.
And today's seminar, where people will be able to watch this afterhand, I guess?
Yes, of course. So if you would like to watch this wonderful webinar once again, or twice or 3 times or anything.
10 times.
Yes, maybe each night before you fall asleep, I don't know. Well, you will be able to find it online later this week, but we will let you know. Just keep an eye in our social media and we will let you know when it's available. Right. So folks, I suppose that was all for today. So I would like to give a big thanks to Anders Milner from Altitude Meetings.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
To the rest of the staff behind Altitude Meetings. And of course, a big, big thanks to all you great speakers. Thank you very much. And last but not least, of course, the great audience. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. And thank you all for attending. See you next time.